Hello everybody, Thomas Fleming here. Squirrel jumped up on the trash can next to me. Startled me a little bit. That's me, squirrel. He's following me. He's in the tree next to me now. Okay. The weather has turned cold. The storm that just went through brought cold air behind it. We went from 60-degree weather. I think we're going to have a high today of 42. It was in the high 20s, I guess, last night with the wind chill below that. Once the wind finally started picking up, it's taken the temperature down another 10 or 15 degrees. So it is cold, and tomorrow's even colder. It's the last remnant of winter, I think. This is the last major cold spell. You know, I tell people all the time, if you live in Georgia, don't plant until after Easter. And we're coming up on that here soon. I've got to do an Easter talk about the fun time. And today, talking about fun times, I try to imagine, and you know me, I don't imagine well, but the area that I enjoy the most trying to imagine is imagining what the first century or so was like when they were going out trying to evangelize. Talking to people, traveling around, being very receptive, the people being very receptive, but the officials not. So they start off on good terms because the people are happy that they're there, and then they get the officials come by and tell them to get out of town. They don't want to hear any of this heretic stuff, especially all the stuff that's going to make them stop giving money to us here in the church. Okay. That is an unusual sight. Huh. There's some lady out here walking, well, young lady, walking along the water. The place I'm at has a beach that they've made. She's walking along the water and she's got what appears to be a robe. You gonna do swim in the water in this cold temperature? Oh my God. All right, enough distractions. That's her hollering if you heard that message. Anyhow, I am going to be reading out of the book of Acts today. The whole book is good. If you just need some fun reading to do, that is a good one. And I'm going to mark it with my marker because the wind's blowing and it might turn the pages. Now the problem that I have, and I hope I don't run into that today because I'm out a little ways from the camp and I didn't bring my microphone. The wind can sometimes cause too much noise and it makes it hard to hear me, and I apologize for those videos. It's just like today. I need to just carry it with me even if I'm not going to use it. If I'm just sitting down talking to it and there's no wind, I don't need it because I'm a foot and a half away from the camera, so I'm fine. But if the wind's blowing, it makes too much noise and you can hear it. The wind is blowing. I think we're looking at about 10 to 15 mile an hour winds, which are pretty high for what we normally get here. Okay, so we're going to look at what's going on in Acts, and I'm just going to read Acts 13, verse 13. I'm not superstitious, so don't worry about it. Now when Paul and his party set sail from Paphos, they came to Perga in Pamphylia, and John, departing from them, returned to Jerusalem. Yeah, John went with them on one of their journeys. That's pretty cool. Can you imagine that? You know, to be a fly on the wall, to have been in part of that group, and to listen to them talking. and especially them talking behind the scenes before they get out in public. Every church has its meeting time. That would have been amazing. And but they departed from Perga. They came to Antioch in Pisidia and went into the synagogue on the Sabbath day and sat down. And after the reading of the law and the prophets, the rulers of the synagogue sent to them, saying, Men and brethren, if you have any word of exhortation for the people, say it. Can you imagine that? Being with the apostles who have their full message of the gospel, witnesses, actual real witnesses. I mean, we try to be witnesses, but we can only testify what we've read, some of what we've seen. But these were actual real witnesses, and they were asked if they had anything to say. I wonder if the officials regretted that. And I wonder how long they took to get that message there. But that's what God does. You show up ready to work, and He'll find something for you to do. You never have to be afraid if God is directing you. And some of you that are a little tired and don't want to get out and do some of this stuff, just be supportive of those that are energetic and want to get the word out. This wind is getting, I can feel it, it's on my ear, it's cold. And the other thing is, if you've never done this, try God. See how He does, see how He works. Just try it. Just show up and say, okay, I want to work, God, and just see what He gives you. You won't have to do anything, but just be a witness. We are not to defend God. We are not attorneys. That's not our job. Our job is to be a witness and tell people what you've seen and heard. That's all you need to do. And read, of course, when we cover the Bible. Okay, back to verse 16. And when Paul stood up and motioning with his hand, Men of Israel, you who fear God, listen. So he's talking to believers that believe in God. It's a different sermon if you're talking to atheists or some other crazy religion. There are various versions of who and what God is. We know there's only one. The God of this people, Israel, chose our fathers and exalted the people when they dwelt as strangers in the land of Egypt. And with an uplifted arm, He brought them out of it. Now, for a time of about 40 years, He put up with their ways in the wilderness. Paul's being honest here, put up with their ways. And when He had destroyed 7 nations in the land of Canaan, Israel, He distributed their land to them by allotment. And after He gave them judges for about 450 years until Samuel the prophet, and afterwards they asked for a king. So God gave them Saul, the son of Kish, a man of the tribe of Benjamin, for 40 years. And when He had removed him, He raised up from him David as king. David and Goliath. We're getting a history lesson from Paul. Can you imagine being there? From David as king, to whom also gave testimony and said, I have found David, the son of Jesse, a man after my own heart. Come on, wind, settle down. Who will do my will? From this man's seed, according to the promise, God raised up for Israel a Savior, Jesus. And John had first preached before his coming, the baptism of repentance to all the people of Israel. John the Baptist, a voice in the wilderness. And as John was finishing his course, he said, Who do you think I am? I am not he, but behold, there comes one after me, the sandals of whose feet I am not worthy to loose. We're getting a full history lesson. And the people in this sanctuary, synagogue, are getting that. Men and brethren, son of the family of Abraham, and those among you who fear God, to you the word of this salvation has been sent. For those who dwell in Jerusalem and their rulers, because they did not know him, nor even the voices of the prophets for which they read every Sabbath. That's the hard part. They studied this on a regular basis and they didn't recognize him. Because they did not know him, not even the voices of the prophets, which are read every Sabbath, have fulfilled them in condemning him. And though they found no cause for death in him, they asked Pilate that he should be put to death. Now when they fulfilled all that was written concerning him, let's see, where was I? Come on. The wind is blowing my pages around, so I have to keep rereading stuff. Now when they had fulfilled all that was written concerning him, they took him down from the tree and laid him in a tomb. But God raised him from the dead. He was seen for many days by those who came with him from Galilee to Jerusalem, who are the witnesses to the people. And we declare glad tidings that the promise which was made to our fathers, God has fulfilled for us, for our children, and that he raised up. I gotta change the page and my fingers are numb. Fulfilled us in Jesus, as it is written in the second Psalm, you are my son, today I have begotten you. So he's teaching them from the word too. And that he raised him from the dead, no more to return to corruption. He has spoken this, I will give you the sure mercies of David. Therefore he also says in another psalm, you will not allow your Holy One to see corruption. For David, after he had served his own generation by the will of God, fell asleep and was buried with his fathers and saw corruption. So we're talking about death. But he whom God raised up saw no corruption. We know that he went up with two witnesses. There were others there, but two specific witnesses that had been around from a long time at the Transfiguration. But he went up into the clouds, and it says he's coming back the same way with the two witnesses. Probably going to be here waiting for him. Well, down here, working for him, I should say. Because they're not going to be at the same time. The two witnesses will be killed and then raised up their own way to heaven. Finishing up this section here. Therefore, let it be known to you, brethren, that through this man is preached to you the forgiveness of sins, and by him everyone who believes is justified for all things from which he could not be justified by the law of Moses. They all knew the law of Moses, and they knew it only covered, it didn't get rid of sin. Beware therefore lest you have been spoken of by the prophets to come upon you. Behold, you despisers, marvel and perish. For I work in your days a work which you will by no means believe. The one be to declare it to you. The one word to declare it to you. They didn't believe any of the stuff before. But now that they've got all these witnesses, part of the Jewish tradition is if you've got witnesses, then your story can be believed. And the more witnesses, the better. All right. It's so cold out here, I've got to get in. So I'm going to have today and tomorrow might be an abbreviated message because it's freezing. This morning it said it was 28 and it felt like 22 or something like that. It's cold. God bless. We're seeing in the clouds, or or on a sunny day. Well, I thought I'd better have some little addition to this because it's a short video. That is a beautiful sight, but what you cannot see, I can get some of the trees, I guess. The wind is blowing. It's not really blowing that hard, but it's carrying a cold wind. And there was where I was teaching underneath there. It's about noon, so the sun's pretty high up. And I'm going to go back to my comfortable tent and turn the heater on, try to warm up. Blessings, everyone. And I'm going to upload this, I think, on Starlink, Lord willing.